Welcome to the Pregnancy Help Podcast. I'm Christine Grimmett, and I'm joined by Tracie Shellhouse, Vice President of Ministry Services here at Heartbeat International. And the excitement continues to grow as we gear up for Heartbeat International's upcoming annual conference. And at this point, many who are attending in person have booked their hotels and made travel arrangements, and they're preparing to spend the week with our team in Birmingham, Alabama. But we have another conference going on for those of us like myself who will be joining from home virtually. Heartbeat's virtual conference happens that same week. It's April 30th through May 2nd. And this is a great opportunity for those who are unable to join in person, but still want that amazing conference experience that Heartbeat offers each year. So we've brought on Beth Henderson from New Hope Pregnancy Care Center in Tennessee to talk about some of her experiences and how she gets her team involved to make the most of that week. And it's not too late to register for both in-person and the online options. So check out the link in the show notes for more information and registration. So Tracie, I'll turn things over to you. I know you know Beth pretty well, and so I'm excited to hear about both of your experiences at our conference.
Thank you so much, Christine. I do know Beth well. Beth and I have actually had the wonderful opportunity to attend Heartbeat conferences together as co-laborers in the same pregnancy center at New Hope Pregnancy Care Center in Cleveland, Tennessee. And she is a fabulous person and a great friend, and I'm excited that she was able to join us today. And Beth, if you don't mind, I would love for you to share a little bit about the path that the Lord brought you on, because now you're the CEO at New Hope Pregnancy Care Center. But I don't know that that was your aspirations when you first started supporting the ministry. Would you mind sharing just a little bit?
Oh, it would be a pleasure to talk about it because the Lord does the way the Lord does, and He surprises us all the time. So when I first heard about New Hope Pregnancy Care Center here in Cleveland, Tennessee, it was my first exposure to pregnancy help at all. I was probably in my early 20s, and my first response was, what? What is that? Do we need that? You know, we live in a little bubble here sometimes. At least I did. But the Lord just continued to bring people into my path, particularly at church. I would hear people talk about the work that was going on, and I always get a little choked up about it because I just began to realize the importance of the work, the life-saving nature of the work of pregnancy help, and to be hearing over and over and over again that I could be a part of it was just mind-blowing for me. And so just started to get involved in little ways, being on a Walk for Life team, getting on a prayer list. I became a church liaison, got on an event committee, and then kind of became the event committee along with one other lady as people come in and out of the work. And so all of this for some years volunteering. And then when Tracie came into our center, she was gracious enough to offer me a job at the pregnancy center, and I accepted, not knowing, of course, how the years would play out. But so I've had several different roles in this pregnancy center. And I'm just glad to be here. I still am. I tell people all the time that, I still kind of have that feeling. I get to go hang out with the people at New Hope. And then I remember that I am the people at New Hope. So, so anyway, that's kind of how I got involved with the pregnancy help movement and with New Hope Pregnancy Care Center in particular.
That is awesome. So with that, sort of the idea of I get to hang out with the people at New Hope, that is one of the really cool things about conference is getting out to hang out with the people of pregnancy help.
Absolutely.
And so you began as a supporter and being on a Walk for Life team, and then becoming a church liaison, and then volunteering on committees, and then eventually you went on staff, and now you're the CEO. So anybody listening to this, that you're a little, if you're not sure you want to be the CEO, be careful because sometimes it's a slippery slope, and there you end up. But with that, along the way, when you came into the movement, you were asking the questions initially, do we need that here in Cleveland, Tennessee? And then you go from that extreme to going to your first pregnancy help conference and being exposed to pregnancy help at large. and what it looks like in our nation and around the world. And so, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about either your takeaways or the benefits that you saw from attending a conference for pregnancy help.
The benefits are immeasurable, really. I mean, there are so many, and I think that that there were, of course, some practical, applicable takeaways from that first conference, even, and all the ones that I've been to after that. But the exposure to, as you say, the pregnancy help movement at large, other people who are in the work, hearing from them, knowing that you're not alone in the work, and that some of the things that you're experiencing are being experienced by people all over the country, all over the world. People are people. And so even some of the frustrations, some of the, we'll just say, challenges that we face, but also the miracles that we see, the way that the Lord is working, and to see the body of Christ really functioning as a body in this work is amazing. And it is remarkable to get to hear from people in other places what is going on. And it just gives you a bigger, broader picture of the work that God is doing.
Yes, and it's exciting. And we get to learn about new things that we can take back to our centers or utilize within our centers. So I know that you have attended pregnancy help conferences in person, but you've also attended them virtually. So tell me a little bit about your history with virtual conference attendance.
Well, naturally, the first virtual conference that I attended was during COVID. So all of us were getting familiar with the whole virtual idea. It was a stressful time for all of us, for sure, because of COVID. And so it was really a nice break for me at that point to be able to just kind of pull in, get online, and still see those people out there working in the movement just like I was, and to be able to pour into the work, and be poured into for the work, even though we had this crisis going on in the country. I mean, it was really a blessing to be able to do that, and to be able to do that with other staff members in a way, although we were also, even our own staff members were separated by being in our own homes at that point. We did take days to be at home to watch the conference during that time. So that was great, and the conference has only gotten better since then, I think. So it's been a very good experience.
Awesome. So what would you say is different from an in-person experience versus a virtual experience, and maybe what is the same?
There are a lot of differences, for sure. There are the similarities that you would expect. So I'll kind of start with that. But the similarities would be that you're still being exposed to education about the work that we do, from other people who are doing the work that we do, experts in the work that we do. You're still being educated. You're still growing knowledge that you can put to work where you are specifically. So that is something that's very similar. Some of the differences are that you're in your own space. I mean, it really, I love the in-person conference, I do, but there are things about that virtual conference that are so enriching, because you can either pull away and be at home, and I've taken time to do that, as I've mentioned, but even, and I can talk about that later, I guess last year, after being in person, I did some of the virtual stuff when I got home. So I did that in my own space on my front porch, and it was great to do that, but also just for our staff, for more people to get to be involved in it than can go to the in-person conference. There's a flexibility to it that you don't have with the in-person conference. We have staff members who, and beyond, not just our paid staff, but because of now the expanded packages that we can have, our volunteers and board of directors all had the opportunity to be a part of that, where they would never have been a part of it before. And we had so many different ways that we saw that play out. So for some of the sessions, we had groups of staff members and volunteers meet in our multi-purpose room, and they did that together, and they had popcorn, and they had, lunch together, and so that it was really an opportunity for the staff to be enriched during that time and feel like we're investing in them, and so is Heartbeat. So it's just a very special opportunity that way. When it's virtual, you have the opportunity to pause or to, it's a little more flexible. If our nurse had to go do an ultrasound because we couldn't block out time for her, she was able then to come back and to fill in some gaps with her conference experience.
Yeah, I love that. I remember in 2020, because, taking a team to conference is very expensive. And there are centers that, there's going to be one person that's going to go. There are some centers that take really large crews. I know in 2020, there were 3 of us going. It was you and I and another member of our team that was the executive team, and we were headed out to Seattle. And so when Heartbeat realized that Seattle was not going to happen that year, and they very quickly revamped and redirected and provided a fabulous virtual event, we had the opportunity to then take our entire paid team. And that would have been cost prohibitive for us at that time at New Hope. Like I said, there was like 3 of 9 going of the regular paid staff that were going that year. And instead, we were able to have everyone attend. We even had some full-time interns that were able to attend. And I just remember afterwards seeing the excitement. And I had the realization that, say, one of the ones that was most excited, if you remember, was Brittany, who is our office manager. And she was relatively new to the movement. And because of her role and her responsibilities, it was very unlikely that she would have gone to the in-person event. And she was so excited and so fired up, and it connected her to the movement at large, to the point that when the Lord moved her on someplace else, she was like, I can't imagine not being in this movement, and actually ended up joining Heartbeat International, one of our programs with Option Line. And so it was an amazing opportunity to just see that we were able to educate so many more people. And so you've mentioned that now that the virtual conference, we've continued to make it available, how you've expanded and made that opportunity available to those on your paid staff board and so forth. So tell us a little bit more about that. I know that you had a lot of people attend, and New Hope as a whole did a lot of virtual courses. They did a lot of the classes last year. So I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, we were able to have a number of our volunteers, as you say, even a couple of interns participated, but also our board of directors. And I think all of our board members but one participated in some way in the virtual conference. And they, just like you talked about, Brittany, there are people on our board who believe in what we do. They love what we do, but they don't have a full understanding of what we do. And so the virtual conference was really a way for them to tap in, to hear a broader sense of things, that it just opened their eyes a little bit, I think, to the movement. And so to see so many of our board members participate was really encouraging to us as a staff, even. Our medical director really went above and beyond in the number of courses that he participated in, but there were many board members, and so I heard comments from them that was like, oh, that really gave me an understanding of something that I didn't have an understanding of before. Thank you. They were excited, I think, for the gift that it was to them to involve them in the movement in a way, and in our center in a way that they had not been before, because I think a lot of times they feel ill-equipped, or they feel kind of on the outside. And so it was an opportunity for them to really be brought in a way that they had not been before. And they were able to then, and even if they watched sessions that I also watched, then we could talk about that,
Mm-hmm.
So that was really good. And I feel like they'll be looking forward to it again. I don't know, y'all probably know the number better than I do, but I feel like we had something like 17 people participate in the virtual conference. So
Yep.
we're excited about it. We really like
Mm-hmm.
being educated and the connection that we get to make through this conference.
Yeah, no, I think it was around 17. And I know one of the people that attended is on your board, and he's also the medical director there at New Hope, Dr. David Chaffin. And I was talking with David because over the years, he was one of the few board members that when I was leading at New Hope that attended a conference, went to the in-person. And last year, I love this about David, he really wanted to get his life-affirming specialist designation. And so this man has all kinds of letters behind his name. He's a doctor, he's a fellow of the American College of Radiology, but he values pregnancy help and he values education. And so throughout the years, he would always encourage, other board members, go to conference, go to conference. This is the more you know about something and you know about what you're doing, the more you will enjoy it. And so I knew that he had done the virtual last year, and I was talking with him, and I asked him, his feedback, and he was like, "Well, Tracie, I was doing it because I wanted to get enough hours for my CEUs for my LAS designation." And he said, I just didn't realize it. I just kept going. And I think he needed 14 contact hours, and I think he topped out somewhere in like over 20 of the virtual classes. And he said, well, I was doing things that were pertinent to me. And then I started looking at other things. And he said, not all of them were pertinent to me, but it was pertinent to pregnancy help. And he said he took away so many nuggets. And I love that he got excited about that because there's so many different ways to participate. But something you mentioned earlier that I'd love to come back to and you expound on a little bit is you mentioned that even though you take the time to go in person, to travel, to be on site, and to sit in workshops and to learn that when you got home, you still participated and utilized the virtual conference that was available to you. Why?
Oh gosh, because there there is so much good information and there's so many things that any person can learn. And so what I did is, I am looking at actually right now in front of me my the program book from the in-person conference last year, where I have circled the sessions that I was going to be a part of, and then I also have printed out the virtual experience calendar, and I have highlighted, I didn't count them, but there's a lot that I have highlighted, and I couldn't fit them in. So when you're
Hmm.
there in person, you have a certain number of sessions on those certain number of days, and you have to pick and choose. And so they have indicated in the program which ones are part of the expanded and virtual. And so I just took advantage of that to help prioritize what I was going to do in person. And then I could get some of the ones that I couldn't get in there. I could watch them after I got home. And then some of the ones who were just that were just virtual to begin with, I just spent some time, and I could take lengthy notes, and I could go back and listen
Mm,
again, and I could
yes.
really take the information in, because um, I need to slow it down sometimes because there's information overload. And so if I'm able to kind of slow that down and just bit by bit, it's like when I listen to a sermon online, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. I want to go back and I want to write it down exactly as it was said. And I want to
Hmm.
be able to pour over the information, and being able to do that with a virtual experience is so good. And there are, especially in a leadership position, I think, well, let me just say, no matter where you are in pregnancy help, you are touching the other roles, no doubt. Uh,
Mm,
there is something that you can learn that will make you better at your job, even if, just like David was saying, it may not apply to you specifically in the role that you're in right now. We've talked about my experience nearly 20 years with pregnancy help, and I've done a lot of different things that I never anticipated that I was going to be doing. But and every moment I wanted to represent pregnancy help well. I wanted to be able to tell people the work that was being done, no matter what my job was. And so to be able to learn about all those things is terribly important, and it's useful, and it is enriching to me. It makes me better at my job, but hopefully I can use that same information to encourage others to be involved in the work. And so I can say, I'm not doing this personally, but let me tell you about some things that other people are doing, and I can learn to be better equipped to do that through virtual conference.
That is awesome. You know, one of the things that I know that we were always intentional about doing when I was there with you at New Hope was to go through that brochure, and we would talk about who's going to what in-person workshops, because we wanted to make sure we didn't end up with like multiple people in the same workshop, unless it was we felt, oh, we need both of us there so that we both have our ears available. And so we were strategic about that. And then we were also, I know, with the virtual conferences, we'd go through again and go, what is applicable? Who should go to this one? Who should go to that? And we would, assign that to, this is your job. This is the track you're doing this week. And then we would come back and we'd have a debrief. Like, what did we learn and what can we put into action now? And I know that the executive team, one of the things that we would do is we would come back and debrief, and sometimes those things would be part of our annual retreats, or it would spur ideas for planning and those kinds of things. You mentioned having, it sounds like watch parties. So how did you identify what might be something that everybody's going to come together and you're going to pop some popcorn and have some, in the South, as we say, Coca-Cola, and or as Beth Henderson says, Diet Coke. And but how did you determine that? And did you feel that that was something that you had to get buy-in, or were people excited about doing it from the start?
I think people were excited from the start to be a part of it. I don't know of anyone that just said, nah, I'd rather just go back to my desk or whatever. But, I worked with our director of advancement, director of operations, and they worked with their staff. They talked to each person and said, here's something that I think I'm interested in. This is something that I think you could benefit from. But they also let them look over the schedule and say, yeah, this, I think this is good. Or, man, I've been hearing our volunteers talk about this thing that they need more information on. And here's actually a session on that. So we just kind of identified what are some needs, what are some interests, because sometimes it's interest. It may not even be an immediate need, but it's an interest. And so we just worked together as a team to determine. And because last year specifically, I was going to be in person, the ladies here worked together on that, even without necessarily having to have my oversight, just to say, these are some things that we're interested in. And even that buy-in, that participation, being asked, what are you interested in? Was a benefit, because it does let people know that we value their input and we value their participation in this ministry. And so to be able to give the schedule to them and say, what would you like to see? What would you like to learn? That is a big deal. And it makes our team stronger when we're able to do things like that.
I love that. And one of the things I loved about the virtual experience is, let's say you have a team member that is in development and fundraising. And so most likely at the in-person event, you're going to want them to do the donor development and fundraising track, because that's most applicable to what they're doing on a daily basis. But going and learning about how to speak on pro-life apologetics, or going and learning about what's going on in the law realm right now, like what's happening, for them to be able to learn those things that they can then also use in conversations with donors, and to direct what they may focus on as they're talking with those that they're inviting to join the ministry through financial partnership, is important. And but nevertheless, at the in-person event, you can only be in one workshop at a time. But with the virtual, you can come back and you can explore other things. And even those that maybe have a particular track that they may be in, as long as they're interested in investing their time, even beyond, their work time, they can explore whatever they want. And so those that are curious, they can really, really take a lot away from it. And that's one of the things that I love about you, and I love about Dr. David Chaffin is you're curious. You want to learn, you're hungry to learn, and you love new information. And the virtual conference is a great place to be able to do that and explore all kinds of things that might otherwise not be in something that in alignment with your job description, but it can be a lot of fun. So Beth, for those that are maybe on the fence, maybe they're not intending to attend in person, or maybe they are coming, but they've got an entire, they've got a crew back at home that's, holding down the fort. What would you say to them as far as encouragement or your number one takeaways?
It's worth the investment. It's worth the investment of money. It's worth the investment of time. Because with the virtual conference, you can make it uniquely yours, your experience for your team. There's no reason not to do it because you're not bound by some of the things that you are with the in-person conference. And you do have flexibility. You do have a lot of choices. And I just think that the benefits, even beyond the surface level, if you want to call it that, information that is provided, just going back again to the team building, the investment in the people who are doing the work with you. It is so worth it because they are gifts to us. And leadership, the people who are with us every day in this movement are a gift to us, and we want to invest back in them and let them know that they are a gift. So I would just say that for that alone, it is worth participating in the virtual conference. If you're on the fence, just don't stay there. Get on the virtual conference side of things because it's very, very worth it. My team was so excited to be a part of it. And it did encourage our board members. We've had 3 of our board members have even been through other training here at the center. And I think, for some of them, this was just, icing on the cake. This was, oh my gosh, for the ones who haven't been through the other training, they now have had a taste of what that can look like. And I think they'll be encouraged to do even more. I get good questions from them. They have a greater knowledge than they used to have. And so there's just no reason not to try it.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that where you're talking about that those that you're serving with, and as a servant leader, those that you're serving as a leader, that they are a blessing to you. And that it's important to invest back into them and to acknowledge that. And I love that. Beth, I thank you for being a servant leader, for loving your team well and loving your community well. It is inspiring. And
I learned from the best.
Well, New Hope is in very good hands. So thank you. All right, Christine, we're going to hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Tracie. Thank you, Beth. A couple things I wanted to note about the registration options. So in person, you get access to the virtual workshops as well with that. It's kind of a bundle that you get together. And so like Beth was talking about, you can go home and continue that conference experience, which is such a cool opportunity. So you're not just leaving and that's it. You're leaving and then you can sit on your front porch, like she said, or you can hang out in the evenings and sit on the couch and watch those recordings, or and talk to your team about what they've watched. And then the virtual experience, there are different options within that. So you can get group access for a bundled cost. So there are different opportunities, whether it's you as an individual or you want to offer this to more people at your center. So I encourage you to go to the conference page that I'll link to in the show notes and check out those options. See if there's something that sticks out to you that's going to really fit your center's needs. And contact Heartbeat if you have any questions. We'd love to help you figure out what's going to fit your center's needs in the best way and give you the best conference experience. So with that, subscribe to the podcast so that you get alerts for all of our future episodes. And thanks for listening to this episode of the Pregnancy Help Podcast.